The Radical Middle is an urban-scale project with the purpose and goal of mitigating the meta-crisis of polarization, non-understanding, and intolerance as products of underlying differences in value, especially in relation to the refugee crisis. The project sails off with a conceptual contract, a black box opened and constructed into a writing board on which a contract is signed, tipping in either direction unless retaining a middle. When such a middle is established, a society is characterized by discussion and understanding. In a polarized setting, the opposite is true, with no understanding or middle, not a mere metaphorical statement. In polarized societies, the middle literally dissolves and understanding snaps. As tutors had to construct a middle for signing the contract, so too do people in polarized situations. Discussion constitutes this construction. Refugee intake correlating with the rise of right-wing populism, a condition characterized by non-understanding, segregation, and lack of interaction as primary causes. Standing in the way of discussion are echo chambers, spaces of extreme like-mindedness. To break apart echoes, we need to understand that information spreads in a network manner. A polarized society looks like so, two echoing clusters hostile to one another. Imagine an individual from each echoing group in discussion with the other, reaching some understanding. That understanding will then spread throughout the initial echo chambers, by an individual discussing with friends, family, peers, and so on. A subset reflector of the whole can reach the whole. Current residential norms segregate people based on socioeconomic or class status, of interest as it acts as a predictor for differences in values. Psychologists have found clear cross-cultural correlations with attitudes, thought patterns, political leaning, and so on to exist. The opposite would be an urbanism bringing together a representational snapshot of all classes found in a given territory, local and migrant alike. The testing ground for such an urbanism takes place in Berlin, the European core increasingly experiencing issues outlined in the project, whose rather generic class distribution is as follows. Translated into corresponding apartments, based on class distribution, rental prices, and square meters, individuals isolated in moments outside of their echo chambers to be reshuffled. Such reshuffling radically fills up avoiding Kreuzberg, a borough known for its comparatively diverse population, its scale large enough to mitigate the randomness component of any model predicting averages. In landing, the radical middle consists of a series of archipelagos, primarily its residential component, a three-floor village-like condition, in addition to groundscape below and roofscape above. The village is a constellation of the apartments reshuffled into an archipelago of different values, establishing a new collective. Apartments are distributed along the edges and voids, facilitating light intake and placed throughout such that differing values exist in proximity to one another. Discussion elements connect the different floors. Setting up moments such as this, connecting floors by rupturing floor plates. Within, you're interrupted by people having seeped out of their apartments and into discussion. Discussion voids are scattered throughout, as gaps between the varying apartment sizes, always puncturing a hole in the floor above it, creating visual and auditory connections, forcing you to awkwardly stumble upon discussion. Below the village, a groundscape of different activities bordering on one another, built up as follows. A grid is introduced based on the structure above, filled with activities in which individuals congregate in groups, who by virtue of their closeness come into contact with one another, then shift in the ground to organize connections between the different programs, creating transitional moments, in which one encounters individuals or groups of differing values along inhabitable borders, allowing for the possibility of awkward rupturing discussion, connecting the ground level with the roof are circulation elements located within the various voids, zigzagging between the three stories, generating moments where inside interfaces with outside, meeting in mutually voyeuristic fashion with discussion spaces or corridors in the village. As individuals reach the roof, they're met with a pathway dictated by the voids, surrounded by landscape bumps facilitated by structural bends whenever discussion is found beneath, in addition to generic and discussion-oriented activities. A fifth void houses formal discussion, engaging NGOs, local chapters, research networks, and so on, purveying information through acts of discussion and lecture. The village seeps in, creating terraced conditions and reasserting the village does not begin echoing by bringing in unfamiliar voices. Its spire rises above the village. Here, discussion is most vital. In extracting individuals from their echo chambers and plunging them into discussion, the radical middle acts as an additional layer in which understanding is generated and spread outwards, creating webs of understanding across echo chambers, perpetually mitigating the meta-crisis.